There are renewed calls to release Marineland's Orca after a new video went viral of the whale in isolation. Kiska is one of the few remaining marine mammals still featured as a sea life attraction at the Niagara Falls Park. The video was first posted by a former Marineland employee to the account The Walrus Whisperer. Marine experts say it sounds like Kiska is suffering. For more on the growing #FreeKiska movement, joining us this morning is Camille Labchuk, the Executive Director of Animal Justice. Camille, thank you for joining us this morning. Nearly 15,000 people have already signed a petition calling on Ontario Premier Doug Ford to move Kiska to an animal sanctuary. But that petition is more than 2 years old. So where do things stand?
Well, it's a really heartbreaking situation, Ben, obviously. It's difficult to watch that video and feel anything but abject sympathy for this animal. She's been in captivity since she was captured in the waters of Iceland as a young calf in 1979. And for the last 10 years, she's been all by herself in Marineland without any orca or even other whale companions. She's probably the world's loneliest orca because every single other orca in captivity at least has other whales, if not orcas themselves. So I think that's why you're seeing so many people really upset about this. My organization, Animal Justice, has just filed an enforcement complaint with the provincial authorities, asking them to investigate whether Marineland is in fact breaking the law by keeping her in these conditions. Because in Ontario, it's not just illegal to cause physical pain or suffering or distress to an animal, but psychological distress too. And when you have an animal in solitary confinement, it's difficult to imagine that she's not experiencing distress.
So tell us a little more about your complaint. At what stage are you with it?
Well, we've just filed this with Provincial Animal Welfare Services. They have the authority to do a number of things. They can investigate, they can issue orders, they can lay charges, they can even seize animals. I think at this point, seizing and moving Kiska is unfortunately unlikely. Ben, it's actually been illegal since 2019 to keep any whales in captivity in Canada, except for the ones who are already in captivity. They were grandfathered into that new law because there's simply a practical reason. There's nowhere for them to go. They don't have any survival skills, they don't have any social networks to be released into the wild. So unfortunately, it's difficult to move her into the wild, but we are hopeful that one day there will be a whale sanctuary built in Canada. There's one in the works right now by the Whale Sanctuary Project in Nova Scotia, and we're hopeful that could be a home for orcas and belugas like Kiska.
PETA has called Marineland, quote, one of the worst places for marine animals in the world. Marineland has previously denied that, as they've said none of the animals are in distress. How do you respond to that?
Well, I think that for decades now, we've heard very concerning stories coming out of Marineland. I mean, just this summer, we learned that the provincial authorities had actually issued a number of orders to Marineland to improve their water system because the authorities believed it was causing animals distress. The facility previously faced 11 animal cruelty charges a few years ago, which were withdrawn. And, you know, in 2012, a big expose came out in the Toronto Star talking about many former employees' experiences, including the individual who released this video. And those experiences were not very good, and they raised a number of concerns about the animals. So I think at this point, that's why we're seeing so many people very concerned about this video, is because it's more of the same. And people are wondering, why is this facility still open?
Camille, last question for you. Kiska is 44 years old. You've stated that currently there is no sanctuary where we could send Kiska. What's the likelihood, or what do you suggest is the best course of action to help Kiska as quickly as possible and as effectively as possible?
Well, I hope when there is a sanctuary, she can go to that facility. But in the meantime, I think there's a number of things that the authorities can order Marineland to do to improve her situation potentially, including providing her with more stimulation or enrichment. And experts have also said that there's a possibility of potentially placing Kiska with other cetaceans. So perhaps not orcas, but maybe belugas or dolphins, which would at least give her some social stimulation, because we've all come out of a year of lockdowns. We know how difficult it can be to be solitary or have limited social interactions. And I think people look at Kiska and they feel her pain.
Camille, you know, for a lot of people, this is the first that they're hearing of this story, so we really appreciate you providing context for us today.
Thanks, Ben. Always good to be here.
And we reached out to Marineland for a response, but have not heard back.